Good evening and welcome to the Sound Off Show. My name is Linda Kirker. I host the program and I'm so glad you tuned in tonight. We have some interesting topics to bring to your attention tonight, and as the show proceeds, if you have a desire to call in and to make a comment or pose a question, you're more than welcome to do that. In the meantime, before I introduce my two guests, I would like to share this with you. I don't know where I got it. I've had it for a little while, but I think it's still up to date and appropriate. We all know that Senator Sanders is, he calls himself a democratic socialist. I call him a socialist. If you don't already know, which you probably do, socialism is about government control of your life. It is not about freedom. And this is what socialism is. I am a school teacher in Denmark, making about $61,000 a year. We get free education. You don't have to pay for the doctor or the hospital. And students even get paid to learn. It all sounds so great, right? However, I forgot to mention that nothing is ever free. The minimum income tax in Denmark is 40%. Also, we pay a sales tax of 25%. And on top of that, the government applies duties and fees. A gallon of gasoline is about $10 a gallon. Tax on a car, 180%, meaning that a car that sells for about $20,000 in the United States, a Honda Accord for instance, would be an astounding $40,000 in Denmark. Denmark is the highest taxed nation in the world, taxed an average 80% on every dollar earned. Danes have the highest personal debt in the world. Few will ever own a car or a home. Anyone who makes over $80,000 a year pays a personal tax of 68%. This means that people with higher earnings have either found ways to evade the tax or have left the country, taking their companies with them. Denmark's suicide rate for the past 5 decades has averaged 20.8 per 1,000 people, with the highest rate of 32. The American suicide rate has averaged 11.1 during the last 5 decades and has never exceeded 12.7. Of course, none of them is good, but those are the facts. More than 11% of adult Danes, Danish people, supposedly the happiest people in the world, are on antidepressants. Everyone wants the American dream. In Denmark's neo-communism economy, no one will ever own or accomplish anything. Welcome to socialism, my friends. So those who are promising everything to you, free college and free health care and Medicare for all, that's all socialism. It's government control of your life. And it isn't pretty, folks. So be careful what you ask for and be careful what you vote for, or I should say who you vote for. Know what they're proposing and what they stand for. With that, I couldn't not bring that to your attention because it's so critically important. We have the extreme opposite in this country. We're free. We have a free market society, and we are blessed to have that. Okay, my two guests. Let's see, I'll start to my left. Jerry Meringue from St. Albans.
Right.
And welcome to the show. It's been a while.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Yes, good. And to my right, Don Tessio. Welcome back, my friend.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, it's been a little while since
Yeah.
you've been on.
Right.
You're a regular, sort of.
Yeah. Well, after you told me about Denmark, I'm ready to move.
To Denmark?
No, I'm just teasing. How many people are going to Cuba for communism? How many people are leaving the United States? Like you said, if communism was so good, people would be moving, but they're not. They're coming here.
Exactly. And it's not that we don't have work to do in this country.
Yeah.
Because we do. Because we have allowed our free market economy and some of the other founding principles of this country are rights. And with rights come responsibilities.
Yep.
But we have to make sure that we elect people who stand up 100% for the founding principles of this country that give us those rights and freedoms and responsibilities.
Well, I think Margaret Thatcher said it very well, that socialism is fine until the government runs out of money.
You've got it. I've heard that before. That was great. Yeah.
Where are they going to get the money to run out of?
It's
We have to pay it.
Other people's money.
That, absolutely.
They run out of other people's money, that's right.
The taxpayers' money.
Yes, absolutely. And so we need more taxpayers, regardless of, just push socialism aside. We need more taxpayers. We have too many people living off those who are working hard. And at this point, because of the coronavirus and so forth, we have fewer people employed who normally would be working. So we need to work hard to get the employment data back up there.
A lot of people that have drawn unemployment are happy with it because
They're making more money.
I know people that are making maybe $300 a week that are getting $500 a week on unemployment. So what incentive do they have to go back to work? I know some people who could go back to work, their jobs were open for them, and they said, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Well, there needs to be a system for those employers to report those people to the government.
Absolutely.
And then the government would would contact them and say, you can go back to your job now. We're going to stop the money coming your way.
I thought there was a time limit, only so many weeks or so many months that you could collect anyways.
Well, maybe so, but if within that, let's say it's 2 months, and after 1 month, your job is ready for you.
Yeah, and if you drive around Franklin County, and you probably all seen, it says we're hiring. There's so many signs are looking, we're hiring people, and that's what we should make them do. Maybe go and find a job, and they have to have it signed off that they tried to get a job. The chocolate factory down there at the industrial park, because I go by there every Sunday, and it says we're hiring, and that's not a bad place to work.
No. Well, the problem is that people who are laid off from jobs, the pandemic they've relaxed a lot of the rules on unemployment insurance. I think your time limit, I think is very accurate, but I think it's a different format now through the pandemic.
Well, this is where integrity comes in. Instead of taking the free ride that's only going to, in the long run, cost all of us more, at least those who work or pay taxes. So there needs to be some sort of a setup whereby employers let the state know, maybe the state know that they're open for business and as far as giving their employees jobs, and that they need to report to the federal government that these people's jobs are open for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're right.
Otherwise, we'll be spending into eternity, and we have enough national debt right now that, it's scary after this virus.
Oh, yeah.
All the money that's been shoveled out within the country. And I'm not saying that it wasn't a good idea to help people.
Oh,
That it's a great thing that we want people to survive, but we don't want them to take advantage of the system.
I'm all for giving people help that need help.
Mm-hmm.
However, our welfare system, as we all know, is way out of sorts.
Oh, yeah.
And why should someone who's making, say, $37,000 a year on welfare go to work for minimum wage? They're not going to do it. And the state does not make it easy for people to go back to work. Now, if they gave people, supplemented their income on a entrance level job to bring them back up to what they were getting paid in Social Security or welfare, near that, and then when they got trained in seniority in their job, bring them back down again, that would be a way of doing it. But in this state, as far as what I've been told, if you get a job, they cut your welfare altogether, take you right off welfare. So
Yeah, I'm not privy to the details of that information. But there needs to be a lot of work done to ensure that, well, I've often said on this program that the Agency of Human Services needs to they need to work along with another agency. What is it? Oh, I'm losing it, but anyway, it happens, folks, trust me, just wait a few years. You have to have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
But the Agency of Human Services needs to work with the Department of Labor, there you go, Linda,
There.
and make sure that people who are not employed, and there are jobs that they could do in the area where they live, then they need to match them up. And say, here's your opportunity. You don't need to be drawing off the taxpayers right now because there's a job right near where you live and you have the skills to do it.
Well, you know, the tech center at BFA, for example, they put up there, have a welding thing where people go welding. So if you're on there, you have to go up there and get trained into something so you can support yourself. And so they, you know, you could be a cook, they got a cooking thing up there. So that's where I think what we should move on, is to help them get off. And it's mandatory, you have to go there. A welder makes big money if you're a good welder. And some of those things up there, automobile mechanics, they're looking for people all the time. And so once you're on there, we're going to get you off so you can go to work. We're going to train you well. That's why most people go to college and high school, so when they get out, they can find a job and work.
Right. Well, that's a good idea. And people who are in technology jobs, I'm thinking of my brother, when we were, well, we weren't kids anymore, but he got a job with New Jersey Bell Atlantic, the telephone company, and he ended up making more money a year than I ever dreamed of making.
That's right.
You know, but my brother can do just about anything, fix anything. You know, it's just amazing. I love it when he comes to visit.
you have jobs lined up.
I have a list.
Yeah, but you're right. Xfinity, you know, with all this electronic stuff, well, Jerry was all in electronics up at the Air Force Base. And we were talking about it before you go on about people getting a job, all right? And there's places out there, if you want something bad enough, and that's why I went to college and stuff like that, so I could say, yeah, and then I never really used a whole lot of, mine was more accounting. I got into sales, but at least gave me a chance to get into the door to do something. So I'm willing to help them, but they have to help
Excuse me.
themselves as well.
Well, there's a big demand in this area and probably most areas for plumbers, electricians,
Oh, yeah.
and those types of professions, but people aren't getting into it. I've talked with my plumber who's done work at my house, and he said that you know, when he gets older or gets to retirement age, who's going to take over his job? People aren't getting into those professions. And
Well, that's a shame.
Yeah, it is. There's a demand there.
Yeah, there's a need, and when let's say you're a young man and you get into one of those trades, and then you get married at some point and you have a home, you can do a lot of your own repairs.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
maybe on the side, do a little work for people, you know?
As you well know, when you call them, it's not $25 an hour. It's a little bit more than that.
You think?
And if you're working 4 to 5 hours, just multiply it. All right, and so, I mean, you can make a good living and be happy,
Yes.
but we need to make sure that they get onto it, because like you said, we can't find these people to work. Because like you said, not Social Security, but welfare is better for them than getting out of bed in the morning and go to work.
Well, you know, this subject, it's education and work, and it takes me to the topic of education. And I believe all education for young children begins at home.
Oh, absolutely it does, yes.
My mom taught me work ethic. Believe me, she did. And I better work, whatever I'm assigned to do, I better do it well and to her satisfaction. That was the greatest gift for my life. I bless her every day. My dad was a great guy. I've said this on the show before. You know, he helped me with algebra, which I hated. Don't give me an XYZ. And I was blessed. But I want the parents out there and the grandparents to understand that they have such an important role to play
Yeah, they do.
in the lives of our young children. There's a lot that children are not learning in school today.
Well, my next-door neighbor is a teacher in one of our local schools.
Okay.
And during the pandemic, he's been teaching classes online for his students. Most students now have laptop computers, so they can get on.
Oh, yeah.
And he said that he is not worried about 60% of his students, because he knows that their parents will make them do the work and everything. It's the other 40% that he's worried about.
What grade level?
Fifth, sixth grade. The parents will not supervise those kids and make them do that work. And so,
Well, they're doing a great disservice to their child if they won't teach their children to be self-sufficient, hardworking, productive people, even at a young age. What does that do for you? It gives you a sense of empowerment and feeling that, you know, you're capable, and you can build on that.
that's right.
But little children, you know, the parents who get it have their children picking up their toys when they're little and putting them in a box.
There you go.
Yes, or cleaning up your room, you know, or taking out the garbage.
They needed chores, is what you're trying to say, chores.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It comes down to responsibility,
Right.
teaching those people
That is right.
responsibility.
And why do they go to school? It's work.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
And you cannot be allowed to interfere with the learning opportunity in the classroom for other children.
yep, no, no.
That is just a big loss of our money, the teacher's time, and the ability for the rest of the students to advance. We
Well,
have to have solutions.
Those kids that are there to learn, you're taking opportunities away from them if they've got to spend time with
Absolutely,
these-
and then they get frustrated, because they can advance beyond where, you know, the class is,
That's right.
and they can't get there because nobody's feeding them the knowledge, because they're distracted.
Yep.
So that has to be very distressing for the teachers as well as for the students. And it distresses me because we're paying a huge per pupil cost in the state. I think it's the second highest in the country.
That's very high.
We are.
The
yes,
the average per pupil cost. And we should be getting, oh, by the way, have you heard the recent testing scores for this year?
I knew they were going to announce them, but I haven't seen them.
They're not good.
Is that
Uh-oh.
right?
Down again,
Really?
yes. And what are we paying for?
Mm-hmm.
So why aren't we making ourselves heard? I don't know about you, but I'm careful with what money I have. It's not a lot, but I'm careful with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to be. That's my responsibility. And so I don't mind paying for schools. I was educated in public schools. But we need options for parents who, I have been told that a lot of parents now are deciding to homeschool, even after this.
Yeah, because they don't feel that the children are getting the proper education in
Right.
public
Yep.
school.
Yep. So
Yeah.
where do we go with that? You know, how do you change that?
Well, a lot of it does start at home, as you well know, okay? When I grew up down in Virginia, if you didn't pass it in the regular time, you went to summer school.
Mm-hmm.
You went to summer school, so you got, so that means you say, I want to go to the beach down in Ocean View. And so you had a native, so you want to be good, so you worked hard during the regular ones. If you didn't, you had to go to summer school.
What grade level was that?
It was all, well, usually high school.
Interesting.
But still, you could do it in elementary type of thing. But you definitely got to get the parents involved.
Oh, absolutely. And children who don't have parents who have high expectations of them within their capabilities and their age level are it's sad.
Mm-hmm.
It's really sad. Now, there was something else about education, but we'll get to it. What's your top priority here?
Well, I was on once before with Dawn, and we talked about this, but I think it's something really worth pushing, because a lot of states now are realizing that this is a problem that we should deal with, and that is term limits in Washington.
Absolutely.
In my lifetime, they invoked term limits on the president. Otherwise,
Yeah, we'd have a dictator.
yeah, otherwise Roosevelt could have gone on forever being president. Well, of course, he passed on, but when our founding fathers set up our government, the idea was that people would go to serve their country for a certain period of time, then leave Washington, go back home and do their job. But now, our congressmen and our representatives and senators are making a lifetime career, which is not, it never was supposed to be that. And they get a lot of perks. And so just some of them. Now, I'm a Republican, but I have to say I'm not a big Trump fan. I'm a Republican conservative, but I think Trump put this out in Reform Act of 2018. This is for all congressmen, men and women. No tenure, no pension. Congressmen and women collect a salary while in office and receive no pay when they're out of office. No more perks go with them. Congressmen and women, past, present, and future, participate in Social Security. All funds in the Congressional Retirement Fund move to Social Security immediately.
Good idea.
All future funds flow into the Social Security system, and Congress participates with the American people. It may not be used for any other purpose, and we know that through the years, particularly in the Johnson administration and again in the Carter administration, that they took from Social Security and used that to pay a lot of the debt in general fund. Number 3, Congress must purchase their own retirement plan, just as all Americans do. Number 4, Congress will no longer vote themselves pay increases. Congressional pay will rise by the lower part of CPI or 3%. Number 5, Congress' current health care system is terminated, and they participate in the same health care system as the American people. And number 6, Congress must abide by all the laws that they impose on the American people. Number 7, all contracts with past and present congressmen and women are void. The American people did not make these contracts with congressmen and congresswomen. The Congress made these contracts for themselves. Serving in Congress is an honor, not a career. The Founding Fathers envisioned citizen legislators serving their terms, then going home and back to work and not get all kinds of freebies. So, no wonder they're fighting this tooth and nail, because that's
That is so well said.
Yeah.
Good for Trump.
yeah, no,
That is, these people are there making benefits for themselves throughout, for the rest of their lives.
And their expense accounts are huge.
yeah, of course, we know that to make this change, it will require a constitutional amendment, and who passes that? But Congress. But that can be overridden if 2/3 of the states approve that. Mm-hmm. And then it becomes a mandatory for Congress to.
The problem is that, and the founders of this nation knew that if the people were not vigilant, knowing what's going on down there in Washington and involved in government, that we would lose. The country would fall apart. The type of government that we have. And I don't know how you wake people up today. But
Give them an alarm clock.
Well, they say that a democracy is traditionally lasts about 200 years. Well,
Yes.
we've
Exceeded.
approached that 2,000 years
Yeah.
and 200 years,
Yeah.
and we're unfortunately when more people take out of the government than they put into it, then the government's going to fail.
Well, and there are people pushing, there are a lot of globalists who want this country to fail. They want globalism, United Nations control of all the waters of the military. They want to be able to punish our military if they're in another country and they're not happy with something they did. That's not the role of the United Nations. We need to get out of there. We're probably the biggest contributor.
We are.
Financially, and we need to say bye-bye. They hardly ever, about 80-some% of them don't vote with us on what we propose anyway. So why the heck are we a part of it?
Yeah, no, they want to be a world governing body, and
Right.
and that's not what they're there for. They're there
That's
to
right.
promote peace in the world, and
Yeah, well, lots of luck. So I agree that we should get out of the United Nations. We got out of did we get out of the World Trade Organization or just take money away?
Well, I don't know if he's taken us completely out of the World Trade Organization, but I think we're not supporting it like we.
Yeah,
We haven't,
is
but-
that the organization where he got other countries to pony up more money? They weren't paying their fair share?
Well, that was NATO.
That's NATO.
That's
NATO.
Yeah,
That's
that was-
right.
NATO.
North Atlantic Treaty
And
Organization.
people are giving him hell about that. And it's our tax dollars that he's saving. I can't figure these people out, you
Well,
know?
we have
Look at what we did in Germany, all right? There was no other country in the world could have stopped the Germans but us.
Well, traditionally, the United States has bought friendship from countries, and we come out, that book, The Ugly American, said it very well, that we can't buy friendship, but we send money overseas, and we really, in a lot of cases, have no idea where it goes. It probably ends up in
The World Health
somebody's
Center
pocket.
organization, that's right now, look how much money we're giving them and look what happened to us. You know? I mean,
Yeah.
it's good
Yeah.
money going bad.
And
No,
they
I-
knew.
I agree that Trump does have the right idea there. We need to stop sending money overseas, and we need to bring industry back from overseas, back to our own country.
Absolutely, especially pharmaceuticals. We have no idea what they're putting into those.
No, most of our pharmaceuticals are made in China.
Yes, yes. And.
If they want to kill us, that's the way they can do it easily.
And we should make our own military equipment, our own planes, anything that would we can do to help protect the safety and the efficiency of our military. I mean, our president has rebuilt our military, more ships and more planes, and, you know, I don't know all of what's been done, but we had lost a lot during the last administration. They just devastated our military capacity.
Well, you look what happened in 1942, we had hardly anything. And we went to work in 1942, and then the war ended in 1945 because we had the will to do it. We built ships, airplanes, all kinds of stuff, ammunition. Matter of fact, there's quite a few here in Franklin County participated in the war problems that had ammunition and things like that. So, I mean, we can do it if we put our heads to it.
Yes, but the problem is, one problem anyway, is that the manufacturers of these things went to China or wherever else because they wanted free labor or cheap labor, okay? Then they could make more of a profit, yep, at our expense.
Absolutely.
So now it's time for them to pay the piper and come home and provide jobs in America for Americans.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies like Stanley Tools, they closed their US plants and moved overseas. And there a lot of countries, a lot of companies that started in this country.
Vermont had 2 Stanley deals in Vermont, and they were no longer here.
No, they went overseas,
That's
Indonesia
right.
or someplace like that.
Yeah.
But these companies started in the United States. They built their products here, and they grew here, and they became millionaires. And now, rather than pay U.S. taxes and support this country, they want to move overseas for cheaper labor and cheaper taxes.
So, you know, where's your appreciation and your commitment to your homeland? You know, and you know, when it comes to money, another thing is that many of these people in Congress are tied into money groups.
Yep.
Okay? And I can't specifically say who's getting paid to vote what way, but it's well known, I think a lot of people understand, that there's a lot of that goes on. And that's another good reason for term limits.
Absolutely, yes. And
the Clintons were famous for that.
Yeah, the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah.
a lot of our people in Washington spend a lot of time across the street in the building with the telephone banks, calling their contributors to get more money and campaign
What do
funds.
you want me to do on this next vote? And what's it worth to you? Yeah. I could never do that in a million years. No way. There's something called integrity in the world.
There used to be.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's as strong as it was.
I know.
At one time, so.
And that's another, you know, that's another thing we have to rebuild in this country. So, did you bring up a special topic?
Yeah, the one we talked about, downsizing the police departments.
Oh.
Okay, what's going on here? They say they want to get rid of cops and give a therapist, because if you get in a bank robber, you go see a therapist, you talk to the guy. We shouldn't be downsizing. And I was talking with somebody the other day, and apparently they do target shooting type. You can't buy ammunition or guns anymore. People are buying it because they're becoming scared about downsizing police departments. And I heard that recently Burlington is going to do that way. The Burlington Police Department is downsizing. I hope we don't do it to state police. I mean, in other parts of the country, I think they're doing the same thing. They're talking about, I think out in Minnesota is one of them, and all those other ones where they had all these problems downsizing the police. Look what happens in Chicago, Baltimore, Detroit, and stuff like that. Every weekend there's kills, people getting killed and shot, and they want to downsize the cops. I can't figure this out.
I think it's time to increase the police forces.
Well, unfortunately, all of this hype that's been going on is caused by, the main part of it is caused by a few rogue cops. And every police department, I'm sure, will have a number of those people in there who are inflated with their own power and want to push that. But 90% of your policemen are good people.
At least.
They're there to serve and protect, and they do a darn good job. And without the police, where would this country be? And
Yeah.
I think this whole idea of downsizing the police departments is getting
Nonsense.
way out of hand.
It's
Well, look what
nonsense.
happened out in Seattle.
That's
They
right.
took the whole city over, no cops.
Yeah.
Now, I guess they letting them in now, but, and all these places are Democratic mayors and governors are doing it. And it's great, that we need to get rid of those guys, because, I mean, if you look at Chicago, I go there every week, and we've talked about this before, how many killings that happen on a weekend in Chicago. And that's blacks killing blacks, you know? And it's too bad, but, and some of these people dying are children, getting in the wrong place at the wrong time. So we have a lot of murders going on, so we need more cops.
Yes, and the sad thing is that when you have uprisings like this, and planned uprisings by people who want to stir up the communities and the country, I wouldn't be surprised if George Soros and a bunch of others are behind these uprisings. They have, they have equipment, how do they all get there? How do they all know? It's highly organized, all right?
It certainly is.
And either these people who are getting involved in these uprisings are very naive and don't get it, or they're just simply easily controlled.
Well, what happens in these peaceful demonstration is fine, where everybody in this country
That's
has the right
legal.
to do
It's
that.
legal.
That's legal, and it's just fine. But it soon takes on a mob mentality when you get a bunch of people together like that, and then they bring in outsiders to stir them up. And when they start looting stores
Burning
that
cars.
innocent people are trying to make a living, and they go in and loot their stores,
They need to
that's
be
not
in jail.
protesting.
They need to be in jail.
Yeah, it's not protesting, that is,
Burning buildings and shattering glass and stealing, going
Yeah.
into the stores and robbing. I mean, what kind of integrity is that? What kind of people are these? It's animalistic, and it's just, if we went to protest somewhere, we would stand there with a sign, and we would be respectful. We wouldn't harm anybody. We wouldn't, harm anybody's property. We would just stand up for something we believe in. But no, that's not them.
no, and there, as I say, it takes on a mob mentality, and it gets carried away. Once it starts, it just builds and builds and builds.
I think it's all intentional, and I think it's disgusting. I think these people are being used and manipulated, and what happened initially with that, the black man who, had the...
Minnesota? Yeah.
Yeah, on his neck. That was horrific. That was awful. And that never should have happened. But the extent that, can you explain something to me? I guess in some ways I'm naive. Black people in this country are just as free to come and go, to get an education, to get a job, to work hard. We have a lot of black people in this country who are very successful and have big businesses and, are well-known, whether they're athletes or actors or whatever they might be. They have opportunity. But what goes awry? Is it that they don't come from a solid family? Is it that I mean, we know that the greatest majority, I think it's don't quote me, I may be wrong, about 70%, I think it's close, of black babies don't have a father in the household.
You're correct. I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a big number.
It's a big number, and that is very, very sad.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you fix that. Well, yeah, that's up to the women to say, no, we're not having sex.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You know, you show me how responsible you are, and we'll talk about it. Anyway, I didn't mean to get on that.
Well, in a lot of cases, the blacks probably have legitimate complaints. I think that an application for employment should not list race, it should not list gender, and person should be hired strictly on their ability and their knowledge. And but look at how the American Indian was treated in this country. A lot worse than what the blacks are being treated.
But
Yeah, we took their land and put them on a reservation, the Indians.
yeah, but now they're not troubled, right?
No.
Not so much, no,
So-
but we're talking about over 100 years ago.
Yes, I know. But the beautiful thing about this country is that 150 years ago, the blacks, the slaves, were freed. So there have been 150 years of family after family after family where they were not slaves. So what's the problem? You know, sometimes we have to get over something in order to move on.
Yeah, I didn't have slaves, you didn't have, and
Of course
Don
not.
didn't have, and
And we shouldn't pay reparations
No,
when
we
we
shouldn't.
weren't guilty.
but now any hint of the Civil War, which in most parts was how the blacks got freed, all the statues commemorating those battles are being torn down, and some
Because
statues.
they don't know any better.
Yeah.
I think they're being stirred up. They may not know the American history. You know, how many other countries are so good that they fix those problems? They didn't continue with that type of an environment where people were still expected to be slaves. You're free for 150 years now. You can get a good job if you work hard to become
Right.
educated, all right, just like the rest of us. And I don't have anything against, I hugged a black man on the street in St. Albans not too long ago. I was in a store and I had a printing service done, and the fellow at the store said, that's $10. And I was reaching in my purse to get my money. And this black man was standing there, he says, oh, I got it. I said, no, you don't need to do that. But he insisted, and then a few months later, I ran into him on the street. And I gave him a big hug, and I said, I remember you. What a great guy, thank you so much.
Well, I have a grandson-in-law who's black, and he's a very well-educated young man. He
Good.
speaks 4 different languages. He came from overseas, but now he's a U.S. citizen.
It's possible, yes.
Yeah, and it really bothers me when these white supremacists say, oh, the black man is ignorant and he's not really human and everything. This is probably a white supremacist who has got about a 30 IQ talking about a black guy who's got 150 IQ.
Right, yeah, I know.
We have to stop this divisiveness about skin color. I don't care what your skin color is. I care who you are as a person, as an individual.
That's right.
Are you a good guy or a good gal? You know, are you productive? Are you a good parent? Whatever it might be. You know, it doesn't matter what your skin color is, and why are they making it? I don't believe that a lot of white people are anti-black. Maybe some are, I don't know. But I would say the majority are not. They're a human being.
That's right. And But, you know, we know all of this is caused by the situation that happened in Minneapolis, the latest part of it, anyway.
Well, look at that one
And-
in Atlanta. Those guys, those cops shot that guy, and they knew who he was.
Yeah,
They didn't need to shoot him because they could have arrested him the next day, but he did get their taser and
Oh, the one who used the taser on the cop.
Yeah, but they knew who he was. It was just a bad thing on the guy who made a wrong decision. Well, and that created a lot of problems in Atlanta at that time, too.
Well, I can partially understand that one, but,
well, the good old boys, though, sometimes,
Oh.
the young black guy who was out jogging and these two guys.
we have a caller. Caller, welcome to the Sound Off Show.
Hello.
Hi, hi there.
I just want to share something I know of through a friend.
Sure.
And I don't hear you too well, Linda. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, no. How's that?
Can you see her, or
let
can
me
you
get
hear
the
her?
volume down so I can hear you a little bit. No? Let me get it down. Okay.
Can you
I had
hear-
a very dear friend from UVM and graduated with me from education. And she got a master's degree, and then eventually she went back home to South Carolina to teach. And she wanted to retire. She said, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, well, why don't you be a bank teller? And she said, we got 3 banks in town, but they all have their one black employee. And I was astounded that that was still going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then 5 years ago when I had cancer, she had the same cancer. And the next year I had 2 friends that also landed up with the same cancer. I honestly do not believe she got the same good health care we did. So the problem is there are still places in this country where they are not being treated as equal.
You said that South Carolina? What state was it?
South Carolina.
Really?
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
down there, and I've seen a lot.
Williston, South Carolina.
What part of South Carolina?
Williston.
I've never heard of that place, but Charleston, but I don't recall, I grew up in the South, and I don't really believe, but it probably does happen, because you said it, but I remember the black people with us go to the doctors and all that other stuff, they got the same treatment, but I guess there could be somebody who didn't feel that they should be that way.
I can't speak to that.
I think it's really sad. So there still is racism, but I don't think you can stamp it all out.
Yeah.
I mean, I minored in psych, and the one emotion that babies are not born with is hate. They have to be taught to hate.
Absolutely. You're
So
right.
if it's coming from the previous generation, that's really hard to change. Very hard to change.
We're
But
right
you know,
after.
if Congressman Welch wants to get reparation for the black slaves that died, I'm Irish descent, and I don't know how much Irish slavery you heard about here in this country in the 1600s and stuff. There actually were more Irish slaves in this country in the 1600s than black slaves. So
Really?
if the black slaves are going to get reparation, I want it too.
There you go.
Well, I can't speak to what goes on in the South because I have no personal experience with that. So I won't speak to something I don't know anything about.
Well, we had the same thing right after 1942 with the Japanese. A lot of people didn't like them for what they did at Pearl Harbor, but they got over it, and now they're good citizens. But yes, certain things will take time to heal the wounds, I guess. But that one there down South Carolina surprises me because I know some people who live down there, and I've never heard anything bad said about anybody down in that part of the country.
Louise?
And the other thing I was
Oops.
thinking of is
Maybe she can't hear me.
if Congressman Welch wants to give reparation to those who had ancestors that were slaves, how about all the descendants of those who fought from the North to free them and died? And lots of families had widows and children, and they had to try to find a way to support themselves and everything. Shouldn't they get reparation for going and dying to free the black slaves?
Well, let's
Let's get crazy with this.
that's a good
I'll let
thing.
you go. Bye-bye.
Wait,
Wait,
can you hear me?
just barely.
Really? You mean all the things that I've said tonight?
No, when I put the TV on, I can hear you, but usually you tell me when I call, don't have the TV voice.
Oh, I did? Okay. All right, good. I thought I was wasting my breath. Thank you
Oh,
for
no, we hear you.
Thank you for the call.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
We had quite a few people leave Vermont to go fight in the Civil War.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Yep.
I think she hit the point right on. Babies are not born to hate.
That's right.
That comes from the home.
You got it.
And so it's, but we said the American Indian was treated very poorly in this country. The Japanese after the Second World War, people form an opinion and they're not going to change.
Well, the thing that I like to say about that, yes, we've made some, through the years, there have been some mistakes that have been made, okay?
Yeah.
We're not perfect, just like we as individuals are not perfect. We all make a mistake now and then. But the beautiful thing about this country is that we don't do that anymore, okay?
That's right.
And we learned to correct a mistake. And that's a good thing. We don't just keep repeating it over and over and over. It may have taken a while, but we need to get some credit for the good things, too.
Well, just like we need to credit the good policemen that are out there.
Absolutely.
And-
God bless them. And I'm scared to death that because of all of this turmoil that's going on and police are being, what's the word I want, castigated, by some people, that you're going to have, and if we don't protect the police by making sure they have the equipment and the manpower and the expertise, the training and everything to do their jobs under whatever circumstances, then we have failed. And I'm afraid that we are not going to have many people wanting to be in law enforcement, and that's going to be one more big weakness in our nation that has been propagated, pushed by these people who are stirring up, all over the place.
That's right.
Yeah, now, if you go back, how many times have you seen on television where a police officer helped to deliver a baby on the interstate? So, yeah, you're going to get the bad ones, but there's more good ones out there than doing, and they stop, all right, when you see an accident, they stop and see if you're okay, and if you're not, they'll help you. I mean, so I see this where they say these cops actually help deliver babies.
Yeah, well, it comes down to bullying in the school, there's a few bullies that affect a lot of kids. And
That's right.
There are a few bad cops that affect a lot of people.
That's true. One of the times that I spoke to the 7th and 8th graders in St. Albans, one of the things I told them was, if you are mean or cruel to another student, you are telling the world more about you and who you are as an individual, more about you than you're telling us about the person that you're not being nice to.
That's right.
And that's true.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you have to live with yourself for not being a nice person.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, we don't always like what other people do or say, and we can have our say back, but you don't have to be nasty and insulting about it and cruel, right?
My theory is agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And you're with friends, like Vet had friends, we agree to disagree when we talk about certain things, and politics is some of the time. Agree to disagree. You don't hate each other, just, it's all about being kind to each other and
Yep.
disagree to, all right?
Well, I may not like your opinions, but I respect the fact
That's
that you
right.
have an opinion.
That's
and-
right.
Agree to disagree is what I've always said. We can get along real good if we agree to disagree.
Right.
You know?
We're down to about a little over 4 minutes.
Okay.
And there's one topic I would like to mention, and maybe I brought it up before, but English needs to be the official language of the
Oh,
United
yeah.
States of America. There are 32 states, folks. Here's a map. I think you can see it, the reds and the blues. The reds are the states that have not made English the official language. The other 32 states, the blue ones, have made English the official language of our country. And it's so important. You'll see that Vermont has not done it, but I believe that there is a bill in the House of Representatives in Vermont to make English the official language of our state. And the reason why that's important in this country, to make English our official language, is because when people come to this country from other nations and they have a different language, they need to learn the English language. That makes us more of a bonded nation. We don't have to, if we have millions of people in this country, and we do, I don't know how many of them speak English, but they're not American citizens. Some are here legally, some are not legally here, but they need to learn our language, because then we are not a multilingual nation, and we can unite under one language. We can understand one another. And if you are from another country and you have a different language and you want to be employed or increase your opportunity to be employed, then you need to learn English. And I really feel, a lot of people wouldn't agree with this, but I feel that young children should learn English before they get into our school system. I think there should be a system for that. If there's a church that brings people to this country, for instance, then let the church be responsible for making sure that that child or those children learn our language, so that we are a country that is united in our language. And then we will not have our federal government printing ballots and driver's registration forms and all kinds of things. We spend multi-millions of dollars, maybe more than $1 billion, printing all kinds of documents in 30 different languages in this country. That's ridiculous. What a huge expense for the American people. People come here, they need to learn our language and join us and become a part of what we are. So that is what I wanted to say. So, oh my goodness, we're down to the last 50 seconds. I didn't mean to take it all.
No, you're fine.
Thank you guys so much for coming on the show. We'll do it again if you're inclined to want to do that. Excuse me, there's always more to talk about.
Yeah.
So thank you, Jerry, and thank you, Dawn. And take care, stay safe. And folks, thank you so much for tuning into the show tonight. Thank you for the phone call, Louise. And have a great 4th of July coming up. Please put up your American flag. And I don't know if there's anything, celebration going on in St. Albans, but certainly if there is, try to get there. Okay, I have to say good night. Have a great week. God bless, and I'll see you next week. Good night.
Good night.